There are 6 numbers on the floor. You will draw a number from my underwear, and you will sit on the corresponding number. Is that clear?
No. Wait.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily cringe content anywhere on the internet. Promise swearsies. It's just a fact. It's totally science. Go ahead, look it up. Thanks so much. We are returning to Funky P Beard today. It's a series that sort of slapped us in the face with the first few parts, and now it's sort of chilling out, which I'm grateful for. If you've missed the previous parts and the heaviest cringe, well, those links are in the description for you. Let's just go ahead, not hesitate any longer, and we'll see what we are in for today. The Lap of Luxury, Funky P Beard, part number 5. 5 already, geez. Really does fly by, doesn't it? Is it time for a cast refresher? It feels like it's time for a cast refresher. So allow me to reintroduce you to the chummers and welcome back to Shadowrun Mayhem. You might regret it. Less than I thought, surprisingly. I will read the cast list. Sometimes I skip it, sometimes I don't. It's whatever you want to do. You can skip it if you want. As always, if you already know us, feel free to skip over introductions and jump right into the disgusting weekend. I'm not gonna do it. It feels like it's written differently this time, so let's see. OP, the narrator. Well, no, the story writer. I'm the narrator. ROP's name is Val. Female, Shadowrun novice, fed up with my neckbeard boyfriend's interminable rage. Funky P Beard. Male, dipshit, humorless, supercilious, possessive, unremittingly enraged alcoholic psycho. And also the somewhat boyfriend of OP, I guess, sometimes maybe. Maury's the GM. He's male and a kinky weirdo who's possibly trying to turn these gaming weekends into some sort of cult. He's usually able to handle Funky's nonsense. Maury's junk, of course, punishes chummers when they glitch, and it rises up to make some of the male chummers uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable enough to leave, mind you. Axton is male, sexy grad student, pleasant to be around, the primary target of Funky's jealousy. Sage is male, assistant GM, host of these gaming weekends, becoming increasingly aggravated by Funky's nonsense, and he is skilled in martial arts. Athena, female, co-host of the gaming weekends, increasingly intolerant of Funky as well. Snorlax, male, chill, friendly, rarely directly involved in the weekend's drama. He also likes some of that wacky tobacco. Basically the only one I identify with throughout this entire thing. Typical trigger warnings do apply. Crapulence, wiener humor, profanity, just general disgustingness. Did you grab a snack? Well, put it back. This is Chapter 5, The Lap of Luxury. We'd been moving back and forth between the garage and the living room. It wasn't the war room until the gaming began, for the past hour or so. This was actually my favorite part of the evening. I wasn't exhausted yet. Nobody was plastered yet, and I was genuinely getting to know Funky's buddies. Yeah, they seem like a pretty chill group, but just the activities they participate in makes me, very suspicious. I found myself having to clarify that I had not been a stripper when Funky and I met. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing but respect for exotic dancers, but being a burlesque performer and dancing in a gentleman's club are vastly different things. Yeah, you don't put your sweatpants on to go to the burlesque shows. High five. Burlesque has much more of a campy, vaudevillian feel, is highly choreographed, and often involves both dancing and singing. And while there's a risque overtone in burlesque performances, the end goal of the show is not a bunch of pitched tents. We're happy with just some heartfelt applause. I mean, yeah, that's probably fine. The pitch tents don't hurt either. I also got to discover everyone else's backstory. Snorlax told me about his former career as a semi-pro wrestler and how an injury had forced him to start working as a mall cop. Now knowing that he had been a wrestler, I could tell that Snorlax's heft wasn't fat. He had clearly been a mound of pure muscle at one point. I mean, if you take a look at the pictures of some of the strongest men in the world, they all look like big boys. But yes, looks can be deceiving. Athena and Sage were both pharmacy technicians, and they were considering opening their own gaming shop. Maury was a paralegal for an LGBT law firm and ran a fairly lucrative FET website on the side. Axton was going to grad school for social work and was the bass player for a classic rock cover band. Damn it. We had meaningful common interests beyond wanting to be techie criminals in a fictional dystopian future. I liked Axton even more now. Why couldn't he have been a gong farmer or something? But to be honest, I would have still found him charming. Yeah, there's a lot of clicking. Can you hear the clicking? It's all around us. Anyway, I was able to chat comfortably with all the team members because Funky had taken to the master bedroom upstairs to get ready. Not only did he desperately need to change his dew-covered underpants, but he also needed to take a full-on shower, using Athena's bathing products, of course. He would then spend nearly a full hour blow-drying and flat-ironing and spiking his jet black hair so that he emerged looking like some bizarre mashup of homeless Hagrid and discount Tom Sandoval. Is that why you dated him? You just wanted the Wish version Tom Sandoval? The deep-fried Tom Sandoval? I'm also assuming that he manscaped, but I sincerely hope that he had brought his own pink razors for this task. But as for that bushy behemoth of a beard, well, he took absolutely no care of it. I never understood the statement he was trying to make by being fastidious AF with every aspect of personal grooming, save his defining feature. Maybe he just doesn't know how. Daddy clearly wasn't there to teach him. But no matter, he was absent, and I was finally having some fun. Alas, that fun would not last. The time for pre-game was quickly approaching, so Sage and Athena took to the kitchen to arrange the shots. Athena, how many do you want, OP? OP, I think I'd better stick with 2 since I've already had a beer. I'd been sitting on the fireplace, enjoying a smoke and finishing off my beer, but the chill part of the evening was ruined when a freshly showered and finally dressed Funky hovered over me and insisted, "Yeah, you really need to stay sober tonight." Get out of here with that. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Pour me 7 shots. I'm gonna throw up somewhere tonight. And OP agrees, yes. That is the type of bullshit that makes me want to drink. OP says, Athena, make it 3 for me. Hell yeah. Loving that. A little bit of pushback. It's good for you. Funky shot me a menacing look. And OP said, what? I'm not gonna get wasted off of 1 extra shot. Funky, I'm saving you from yourself. You can at least try to appreciate my chivalry. Yeah, it's funny how your type of chivalry always comes in the form of telling me what to do. OP says, right. What if I shoot 2 and just sip the 3rd one? Does that sound reasonable? Funky shrugged. OP, come on. I feel like such a sissy compared to the rest of you. Funky, whose fault is that? You didn't take advantage of your years and years and years of being a student to practice handling your liquor? Oh yeah, that's what we go to school for. OP says, no, I mostly studied. And when we partied, we did drugs. You can get on my high horse here. Quite literally high. We didn't drink. Not like this, anyway. Funky, well, it's too late now. What matters is that I take Shadowrun very seriously. I expected you to do the same. I'll be honest, OP's put way more effort into this than anybody should. You clearly don't take it that seriously. It's just an excuse to get shit-faced, but whatever you need to tell yourself. OP says quietly, so as not to offend the rest of the team, does anyone else take this seriously? Because it feels like the opposite of serious so far. Funky, the rage beginning to bubble. We all take this mission very, very seriously. Yeah, okay, bro. It seemed to me that Funky was only there to get rip shit, criticize my every move, and get mad at his supposed closest friends over every little thing. OP says, do you mind if I take 5? This isn't something we need to argue over. I'm gonna go clear my head so that I can put on my serious face once we reconvene. Remind me where we left off? There was a dragon with flaming flatulence blowing up some buildings. Snorlax was sitting on the sofa, apparently within earshot, and I heard him chuckle a little. Funky to Snorlax.
Already stoned enough to laugh at anything I see.
And then he says to me,
You're not very good at snark, little lady. Give it up.
and neither are you. Pointing out that the stoner is stoned? Is that considered snark nowadays? He's here having a good time. Maybe you should try it out. OP says, rude! I'm still gonna be outside alone with my terrible snark. Funky.
If I catch you asking Maury for coke, so help me.
OP, more defensively than I had intended. I just need some air. That's not code for anything untoward. Funky.
I'm coming with you.
Oh my god. You're a disaster. How are you this insecure? Thankfully, Snorlax stepped in and said, Funk, just let her go outside, dude. I'll stand by the door and make sure Maury doesn't follow her. Funky.
I don't care about Maury. You make sure that dickwipe Axton doesn't follow her. I know he's trying to mount her.
Mount her? Like put her head on the wall above the fireplace? What an odd way to phrase it. I could hear Funky's rancor-riddled raving on my way to the back door. OP. Oh my god! Stop it, Funky! I'm not going outside to do drugs. I'm not going outside to shag anybody. I just want 5 fucking minutes of peace. Well, good luck with all of that. I don't know if that's happening tonight. That 5 minutes you're taking right now, probably the last 5 minutes, so let's breathe it in deep. Maury stood up. He was shirtless that night, wearing nothing but ultra sheer, light pink boxers and a feather boa. Despite his wispy attire, the group still kowtowed to him. And yeah, that still really seems weird to me. But at least he's using his powers for good in this instance. Maury says, I hereby grant OP 10 minutes of solitude on the back porch. Funky, you will use this time to meditate. Think about what it means to be kind to your significant other. Think about what it means to show empathy and acceptance. Think about what it means to enjoy the company of your fellow chummers. Rather level-headed statement, probably because he doesn't have any drinks in him yet. Hasn't smacked anybody with his dong yet today. That's when it really starts spinning out of control. So I slipped outside and inhaled the pleasant dusk that was beginning to fill the air, and I found myself feeling indebted to Maury and wondering if this was some sort of cult indoctrination malarkey, or if he had just known Funky longer than any of the rest of us and had learned how to effectively handle him. And then I decided that none of that really mattered. I finally had the peace and quiet that I so desperately needed. My unfocused mind ran blissfully amok for a while longer, and then the 10 minutes were up when I heard a quiet voice calling my name from around the side of the house. The indoctrination malarkey statement does seem to hold some merit to me. Allow me to go on a bit of a tangent, if you will, and tell you about a side project that I've been working on, infiltrating the incels.is forum. Upon joining, I had to talk to 2 different admins who told me that because I said I dated a girl once that I wasn't actually a true cell. If I had just been able to walk in the forum, view absolutely everything, then it probably wouldn't mean all that much to me. But putting myself in the shoes of an outsider who's experiencing inceldom, I can see how, at first being rejected by the group and then accepted afterwards might make you feel some sort of affiliation with them. I did talk my way through well enough, but the forums also have activity tiers, so I can't see absolutely everything that goes on unless I participate, which, oh my god, I do not want to participate. But yes, all of that to say, I think the cult indoctrination thing is true. And it's also a brief glimpse of some of the things that we have planned for future content. Anyway, who was that voice calling your name, OP? See, good segue back into the story. I rounded the corner to answer the voice, and it was Athena. Athena, OP, I know it's none of my business, but Funky is a douche. That girl who came to the door last night, she's one of his hookups. Hell yeah, boy, called it. I laughed a little. I know, he's got loads of them. Hey, do you mind if I ask you a stupid question that I ask myself all the time now? Athena? Yeah, sure. OP? Why do you guys put up with his shit? Athena? Well, he and Maury have been best friends since before the team formed. He's kind of a package deal. If we want to keep Maury as our GM, then we have to accept Funky, and Maury does run a really fun campaign, pervy nonsense aside. It can't be that good. Nothing can be that good. Hey, how would you guys feel if I did a ReddX D&D 5th edition campaign? Would people pay to get in on that? Might be good to supplement the income in the difficult months of January, February. But again, I'm just thinking out loud. OP says, so if Funky ever crossed the line with Maury, then he'd be out. Athena, that's what we've all been hoping for, but Maury is insanely patient with Funky.
Oh, that's a little bit sus too.
We just sighed and returned inside. Funky was sitting in a sulky silence, staring at his polished Chelsea boots and sucking on his long cigarette holder. I took a seat on the other side of the room, next to Maury. Maury? Are good? I nodded. Maury whispered, you still want some coke? OP? Shh, I don't do that anymore. Maury mouthed, Adderall. I smiled and whispered, later. I like this. He's got all the supplies. Maybe that's why these people like him so much. He just drugs them out real good. Maury glanced over at Funky to make sure he was still lost in his sulk. He was. And then the GM turned back to me and said quietly, I'll keep my staff away from you from now on. If I call you up for a staff punishment, please know that your face is safe. I was surprised by this. Did Funky threaten you? Maury shook his head. No, dear. You have something of a secret champion who asked me politely to spare the rod. I don't respond to threats. It was Axton, calling it right now. Maury gave me an earnest nod, and then he resumed his regular regal demeanor as he opened his arms to the team. Maury, tonight we are making a seating chart. There are 6 numbers on the floor. You will draw a number from my underwear, and you will sit on the corresponding number. Is that clear?
No. Wait.
Does it have to be under? Do we have a hat somewhere in this house? Everyone bellowed in unison.
Yes, Game Master.
This was exciting. I had a decent chance of not having to sit by Funky that night. I was completely fed up with his constant criticisms of my character sheets and his suggestions for future moves. He was messing me up much more than he was helping. Yeah, and not just in game either. He's also doing that IRL. Maury took a seat on a throw pillow, shoved 6 folded pieces of paper down the back of his boxers, and called us up one by one to draw our numbers from his draws. Being the newbie, I was the last to draw. Maury, get all the way up in the crack, OP. I laughed and fished the paper out of Maury's boxers. It wasn't up in that crack, for the record. Funky took a loud breath and fumed. Maury, you Sage put a hand on Funky's chest and said very sternly, take it down a notch, Maury. Tonight, we will find peace among ourselves and rain fire and terror on the mega corporations. Are you with me? Actually sounds pretty lit. The entire group responds.
We're with you, Game Master.
Maury, then inspect your numbers and take your seats. You should also feel free to sniff the papers.
What? No, dude!
He's a weirdo, but he's funny sometimes. I don't think it's enough to win me completely, though. For the record, no one sniffed their papers. Thank God. I got number 3. Funky was sitting to my right, but at least Athena was sitting on my left. I felt like I could trust her, and I felt like she would call Funky out if he pulled any more of his rage crap. Tragically, Axton was sitting to Funky's right. That wasn't gonna go well. Snorlax was sitting to Athena's left, and Sage was in his usual spot as Maury's right hand. So it went tech, muscle, tech, magic, muscle, magic. Not ideal. I mean, come on, you had one night of this. You probably all know your roles at this point, right? How much does a team actually have to coordinate? Maury surveyed the room. Not at all how I had hoped, he muttered. But nevertheless, the team has been assembled. The time has come.
Pre-game!
I actually knew what to shout this time. I remembered to pound on my chest, and I looked to Athena in an attempt to learn the tribal dance. I got close enough. You're fitting into this coat quite well, OP.
You must be very proud of yourself.
We all charged into the fuel station, and I stood by the non-threatening triad of shots, while all the other team members stood before their 7 shots. Maury. Fireball! Each tincture shall light a fire in our bellies, improve our spell casting, and lead us to victory. Chummers, drink! I slammed my 2 shots and picked up the 3rd to nurse during the game. Just like the night before, all the other players downed their 7 shots with astounding ease. I mean, it's easy to get it down into the stomach. It's once it hits the liver that it starts to cause some trouble. We returned to the war room and stood by our assigned numbers. Maury. The rules! Everyone groaned, just as they had previously. Apparently, this was customary. Maury. If you glitch, you must take a shot of fireball to boost your skills. My darling Decker, you may take a sip of an alcoholic beverage. You may also do a bump of Coke. I know which one I'm picking.
Cocaína.
Funky clenched his fists, gritted his teeth, and growled. This was delighting me to no end. Not only was Maury offering me a manageable taste of my former favorite drug, but he also seemed to be actively antagonizing Funky, and it was delicious. That's probably what I enjoyed so much about part 4. Funky just never got his way. And I hope it continues on that way in perpetuity. And here's one for the philosophers. Am I the asshole? If you're antagonizing the person that's the butthole, doesn't that make you kind of the hero? Oh crap. Was I getting brainwashed? All part of the plan. All part of the plan. Maury. The second time you glitch, you must kiss my staff, or endure a smack in the face from my staff. Funky, you must suffer the lap of luxury on your second glitch, or if you misbehave. Funky,
Can you explain that?
Maury,
It will become clear in good time, my sweet little samurai.
Funky shifted uncomfortably, and I bit my lip to keep from laughing. Yeah, he's gonna have to go sit in Maury's lap, I'm pretty sure. Maury.
All subsequent glitches will result in escalating staff punishments, the anal gaze, remover of armor, or a spanking. Anything that the team deems an epic success shall be rewarded with a shot of Johnny Walker Blue.
Mid-top shelf.
And my trusted assistant GM has a few new rules to add, just for the time being. Sage the Mage, the floor is yours.
Sage, We can't afford to pay for another round of professional cleaning for the time being. We are now asking that all team members please use the restroom if you must pee or poop or vom. Gentlemen, feel free to pee in the backyard, but refrain from peeing on the porch. Thank you. Back to Game Master. Maury.
Place your hand on your chest and pledge your loyalty if you agree. Take off your pants if you object.
Funky reached for his belt buckle and glared at the rest of us as we looked on with bated breath, hoping that he would take his pants off and leave us to play our game in peace. At least that's what I was hoping. But then he exchanged an intense look with Maury, grumbled something unintelligible, and finally placed his hand on his chest. Look at you, Buckle, little beta boy. Can't even stand up for what you believe in, even if the only thing you believe in is crapping on the floor and puking everywhere. Maury says,
Then we continue planning the station takeover. Now!
We had barely gotten through 2 combat turns, during which Funky completely lost sight of the objective and kept proposing that he would blow up whatever mech Axton was currently inhabiting. Whatever, dude, let it happen. Some PK? That'll make a game real spicy. Maury managed to shame Funky into sticking to the objective by insisting that Funky wasn't taking the game seriously. A most egregious offense, I'm sure. But Maury, in the spirit of seriousness, soon decided it was time to break for leftover Taco Bell and more liquor and a little bit of nography. Oh, I like that. You just knock off the first syllable. What you doing? Watching some nog? No, you gotta say the graphy part. Oops. I decided to skip dinner that night, as did a few other team members who valued their digestive systems. But Funky sat there guzzling Jack Daniels and scarfing down soggy chalupas. Ugh. And then it came time to roll for the flick. Snorlax rolled for Bat Punane, an older film that is widely considered to be the Plan 9 from outer space of Prawn. I don't know anything about what we're talking about. I think it's best we keep it that way. There's a lot of things that I'll subject myself to for the channel. But nography? I can't do it. Violates my own personal moral code. Although, OP says, this film was definitely more on the softcore side, since no one ever actually banged. I don't know if I'm relieved or disappointed. It was a spoof on Batman, and the main character gets a little twitch down there whenever she needs to go fight crime. I found it wildly entertaining. It might be, but still I can't do it. In fact, I laughed hysterically throughout the entire movie. Most of us did. Funky even snorted once or twice, as the main character was bouncing on a hippity hop alongside the highway, wearing a cheap costume. I was howling with laughter. Possibly because everyone was a little drunk and the drunken laughter was contagious. Possibly because it really was just absurdly funny, or both. That scene does sound hilarious to me. I mean, I laugh pretty easy. I laugh at basically anything. So yeah, seeing something like that, it might possibly kill me. Funky says, "It's not that funny." OP gasping. I can't help it. This is batshit crazy. Maury says, "We gotta get OP a Batgirl costume and a hippity hop." OP, you're on. I will absolutely do that. And I want to film it. Funky,
You're gonna recreate a scene from a porn with Maury?
Sage, dude, exactly what is sexual about this scene? It's ridiculous. That's why we're all cracking up. I think something's wrong with Funky's brain wiring. Funky says,
You have to understand, I'm an intellectual.
if you were an intellectual, you'd be smart enough to know that intellectuals don't have to call themselves intellectuals. They just walk around and people get the gist. You're nothing but a mess, Funky, a subpar human being. I want you to get better. It hurts for me to say it, but it is the truth as of this point. I was painfully familiar with the insufferable tripe that typically followed this statement. Apparently, so was the Shadowrun crew, because they all groaned dismissively. Funky had gone to college for at least one semester before he decided that
It wasn't for him.
in that time, he had taken an introductory psych class and had managed to retain a few factoids. Most notably, he recalled a study that found an inverse correlation between happiness and intelligence. I mean, if I only got to pick one side of that, I know which one I'm leaning towards. Could one reasonably conclude that happy equals stupid and unhappy equals smart? Absolutely not. As with every other study of human cognition, it's far more nuanced than that. Yeah, but still, if we're gonna put it on a binary like that, I'm picking happy and stupid every time. I like to be comfy, cozy, happy. That's the good life. Of course, Funky couldn't be troubled with the nonsense known as nuance. All he knew was that he wanted to be perceived as smart. Yeah, and he wants to put in none of the work to actually get there. His mind almost undoubtedly plays host to a mickle of mental disorders, though even with my present credentials, I can't ethically diagnose a former romantic partner. Pretty fair, honestly. That's why I get sussy about stories that are like, oh, my ex is a neckbeard. It's like, well, you knew them more intimately than most people will ever get to know them. I'm sure they had some idiosyncrasies. Everybody does. But yeah, we're beyond the level of just idiosyncrasies here, pretty clearly. Barking mad or not, Funky was still the sulkiest, mopiest, angriest, most miserable fuck I've ever known. So, not only did his natural state of misanthropy make him feel smarter, based on his misinterpretation of this study that he learned in Psych 101, but he also openly resented mirth in an effort to appear smarter. Damn, dude, what's it like to go through life like that, just not enjoying anything? I couldn't do it. What is wrong with you? Was Funky secretly envious of people who could find the funny? I don't think so. I think he truly believed that my laughter made me look like a ding-dong doodle-bug dumbbell, which made him seem dumb for being associated with me, and that simply would not do. See, the problem is you're relying on other people, outside perceptions, instead of finding like a sense of self and sticking with that. Be who you are and be proud of it, even if other people think it's weird. Although I guess Funky does do exactly that, with the exception of trying to change his romantic partner into somebody she's clearly not. But anywho, once the movie ended, most of us lit up and we all returned to our assigned seats. Maury,
Shall we refuel before we resume?
A chorus of
Hell yeah!
rang out, but I wasn't in the mood for booze. I was once again beginning to fade around this time, and I needed to find a way to get some Adderall from Maury without Funky noticing. Can't be that hard. Funky's not very self-aware, and I definitely think that extends to any type of awareness. He's in his own little world, thinking about nothing but what other people think of him. Does that make sense? It had already been an incredibly long day for me, even though I was having fun, aside from having to tend to Funky's bunkum. Maybe the beardo boyfriend was the reason I was getting exhausted at these gatherings. Yeah, maybe, but also it's just hard to stay up all day and party all night. These are the signs that we're getting on in years, isn't it? As everyone was refueling, Funky had managed to trap Sage and Athena and was lecturing them about why it was
Disrespectful to females to combine humor with doing it.
Funky.
To make a mockery of the female anatomy and then to depict sexual acts so crudely is offensive to me as a feminist.
Oh, God. Athena, you're a feminist. Funky.
Obviously, I would lay down my life to defend the sacred honor of the feminine spirit, but only logic and strength of character can defend females. I'm a true feminist, not one of those malignant misandrist hussies who run around touting the power of the punani.
He really will just say anything and then proceed with the mental gymnastics to fit himself into the role that he's made for himself. Super strange. Sage says, I'm pretty sure it was just a bad movie. Plus, the superhero was a woman, so funky.
But they had to make her superpowers connected to her genitals. That's objectification. It's not funny. Even if it's meant to be so bad it's funny. I'm offended.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. Write a fucking letter about it, I guess. Not everybody finds the same things funny. You didn't like it? That's just fine, but you're not gonna get me stirred up about it. I wasn't part of this discussion, but I interjected. I feel like humor can be sexy. Being able to laugh during sexual experiences could create a bond, and if both partners are deliberately goofing off, I mean, what's offensive about that? Yeah, what's offensive about that? What's funnier than a Dutch oven, Funky? You fart out of the blankets and hold your lady's head under there? Then she gets you back at 2 a.m. when you aren't expecting it after she ate broccoli and cheese? It's like I shot her with a pellet gun and she shot me with a Desert Eagle. It's still funny, though. Axton raised his glass in approval, and I couldn't help but smile at him. Funky.
Oh, Miss Intimacy Therapist knows everything.
OP. I don't know everything. It's just an opinion based on research that I learned in graduate school. Funky.
Some idiots actually research laughing during intimacy. That can't be a real thing.
OP. I can print out the articles. Funky.
From where? Hustler?
You do understand that there's a science to everything, don't you? I guess he doesn't. I didn't have the energy to argue with the prat. OP just said, yeah, I cite Hustler in all my papers. Axton says,
I've read the same thing. Laughing releases endorphins. Intimacy releases endorphins. Why do you think adult novelty stores are always so funny? The elephant trunk underwear?
Maury, I have a pair of those. Of course he did. Yeah, you want to kiss the elephant between the ears? And really, adult novelty store, absolutely hilarious. When I was in Japan, we went to like a 14-story sex shop. It was in Shinjuku, and it was an experience. Speaking of underwear, you can literally go in there and buy used underwear. It was 500 yen. Even comes with a little picture of what I presume is a girl wearing them. Or a woman, I should say, not a girl. Also, I didn't buy any. Funky says,
do you want a bottle smashed over your head, Axton? Stop talking to my girlfriend about your dog.
OP. Funky, he said literally nothing about his dong. Funky.
Wrong. He was agreeing with you, even though you're talking out your ass. He's trying to ingratiate himself because he's thinking with his dick.
And then he says to Axton,
I've had it with the predatory skullduggery, pretty boy. She might be too naive to recognize it, but I'm logical enough to call you out on it.
That's about the point where I want Axton to ask him, like,
dude, just how small is your dick?
But Maury saved us all by clapping his hands, and he says,
back to the war room, chummers.
I let Funky stomp out of the fuel station first. It might seem like I should be outrageously offended by his comments, but he was clearly talking out of his ass. As he always does. As I always do. We're much the same in that way. Arguing with him would have just been a waste of time. Plus, an argument was exactly what he wanted, and I wasn't taking the bait. Once Funky was out of the room, I felt someone tug on one of my pigtails. I turned around to see Maury holding an Adderall in the palm of his hand. See what I mean? Easiest exchange ever. I glanced over my shoulder to make sure Funky wasn't watching. He was too busy staring daggers at Axton. I snatched the pill, thanked Maury, and slipped it into my mouth. Funky's ridiculous ranting eventually simmered down, and we were able to more or less play peacefully for a little while. But when my turn came around, my sleaze failed, and the security subnet sent my coordinates to the mainframe. It was the first glitch of the evening, and I didn't want to pile cocaine on top of an Adderall, so I had to take a sip of an alcoholic beverage. Yes, surely this depressant shall balance out all of these stimulants. Since I didn't have a beverage of my own, Funky offered me his Jack and Pepper, Jack Daniels and Dr. Pepper, which was about 90% Jack and 10% pepper. Gross. OP, is anybody drinking a beer or something a little less potent? Snorlax offered me a sip of his beer. OP, you sure you don't mind? Snorlax, it's all good. Have a sip. Funky was fuming again, breathing so hard that his nostrils collapsed with each inhalation, and he let out a growl with each exhalation. Jesus, bro, seek therapy. Snorlax handed me his beer, and I took a sip. OP says, thanks, Snore. Funky,
You're drinking after another man? You didn't even wipe off the mouth of the bottle first. Ugh. It's like you're kissing him.
Snorlax started making kissy sounds at me, and I made them back. Everybody laughed. Everybody but Funky, of course. Please remember that this was in the before times. Yeah, pandemic really changed some shit up, didn't it? When I returned to my assigned seat, Funky pulled me into his lap and growled,
Snorlax, now? Really? Why can't you control your urges, woman?
I twisted to look him in the face and said through clenched teeth, it was a sip of beer. Funky kept one long arm tightly wound around me and used his free hand to slug back loud gulps of Jack and Pepper. I dared to glance over at Axton. We locked eyes for a few seconds, but Axton abruptly whipped his head around to face Maury, and Funky roared,
Hey, are you just looking at my girlfriend, you fuckwallet?
Oh my god, dude. Why can't we have a nice time for once, you know? This would be pretty chill if you weren't here, Funky. You ruined everything.
You're just ruining it. Look at my lips. You're ruining it.
It was then that sweet Athena spoke up. Athena, Funky, seriously, we're supposed to be a team. We can't even look at each other. Maury, can we outlaw the outbursts? We're never even gonna get past the planning phase if Funky keeps screaming at every single person who interacts with OP. Maury,
I'm inclined to agree with you, my shrewd shaman. Funky, why did you invite your girlfriend here? If you didn't want her to play our game and get to know us.
I felt Funky take a deep breath in preparation to react inappropriately to Maury's innocuous question, but Maury was able to effectively silence him by simply lifting his hand. Dude, he was gonna have to teach me his tricks. Maury,
we'd like to get to know her in peace. OP, would you like to get to know us in peace?
OP, yes, I really would. Maury,
Funky, these outbursts have earned you a new punishment. The lap of luxury. Get over here, tall boy.
Maury patted his lap. Funky,
Are you serious?
Maury,
I am. You sit right here until I say you may rise.
Funky didn't move. Maury said,
Should you refuse, OP can come sit in my lap.
Oh, this is some masterful manipulation going on. OP says, honestly, better Maury's lap than Funky's, but Funky scrambled up, sending me flying from his creepy clutches. I stretched out in my newly claimed personal space, delighting to watch Funky get a taste of his own medicine. Yeah, drink it down. The beard awkwardly folded himself into Maury's lap, grunting and grumbling the entire time. The rest of the team was trying desperately not to laugh, which of course only made it even funnier. Once he had settled in as much as he could, we continued the planning phase. Athena had successful rolls, and so did Snorlax and Sage, but Axton managed to glitch. This was sure to be a problem. Maury was stuck under Funky, so he was unable to whip it out and administer the customary punishment. Maury says,
Axton, remove a piece of your armor.
Axton reached around with one hand and pulled his t-shirt off in a single fluid motion. I'm quite certain that my pupils noticeably dilated. The rest of the room whooped like they were at a Chippendales show. Maury,
nicely done, my racy rigger. One more glitch and I'll make this seething samurai place some paper new yen in your pants.
Axton,
Please don't.
yeah, we don't need the money that bad. It's fine. Funky looked like some sort of cartoon villain who had just been foiled. As he sat indignantly upon the Maury throne, he twitched and shifted, snarling curses, teeth gritted, and then he froze. His eyes widened. He started to stand, but Maury wrapped his arms around him tightly, trapping him in the lap of luxury. Funky,
You're hard, bro. Let me the fuck go.
well, it seemed that when Funky froze, Maury rose. I squealed with laughter, and it appeared that I had been right about Maury letting people off the hook when they were legitimately uncomfortable with gross-out punishments, because Maury loosened his grip, allowing Funky to stomp off to the back porch.
LP! LP! Pixie!
Funky screamed from the porch. Maury says,
You're free to go tend to his meltdown if you want to, but I'm happy to handle him if you need a break.
OP says, yeah, I definitely need a break. Maury got up to tend to the bearded ball of rage. I heard a bit of unintelligible yelling, and then the door slammed. We all looked at each other with something between nervousness and bemusement, waiting for someone to speak. I decided to break the silence, but that's not going to happen until part 6. We're really seeing some true colors coming out right now, of everybody. Maury, definitely the manipulative, devilish mastermind. Funky, the most insecure person that I've ever met. Everybody else, relatively chilled. There's only a couple of people who are making this really weird now that we boil it down. But I still hope you're enjoying the story, friends. Like, comment, subscribe. You know what to do. Many links in the description. Thank you to my Patreon patrons, my YouTube channel members as well. On the end card, I'm going to link Gothbeard, why not? It's a really old video, but it still holds a special place in my heart. Click on through. I know you'll love it. It'll hold a special place in yours too. And of course, always remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye. Go ahead and cut them open. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.